Imagine seeing a truck so strange that you have to look twice just to believe it actually came out of a factory. Now imagine 10 machines like that, each one looking absurd for a completely different reason. Some were built to work hard, others to save fuel, others to cross impossible terrain, and some look like they were designed by someone who wanted to challenge everything we understand as a truck. The most interesting part is that behind these ridiculous designs, there is real engineering. Strong engines, cab-over layouts, military solutions, aerodynamic projects, tough frames, and ideas that, in some cases, were far ahead of their time. So here is the question: how far can a truck go while still being functional, but looking completely out of the ordinary? Stay with me until the end, because the last truck on this list is not just strange, it feels like a real attempt to reinvent the future of the road. Colani Truck. Very few trucks create confusion at first sight quite like the Colani Truck. Designed by German designer Luigi Colani, it was born as a radical proposal to show that heavy transportation could be more aerodynamic, more efficient, and far more visually daring. Its raised cab, rounded front end, and flowing curves completely broke the traditional image of a heavy-duty truck. The mechanical base varied depending on the prototype, since the Colani concept was applied to chassis and components from established truck manufacturers. In many configurations, it used inline six-cylinder diesel engines, producing somewhere between 300 and 500 horsepower, depending on the platform. The transmission could be manual or automated, and the drive layout was rear-wheel drive, just like conventional highway tractors. The goal was not to make the truck sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour as fast as possible. The real focus was cruising at highway speeds while using less fuel. The suspension was tuned for stability over long distances, and the entire cab shape looked like it had been molded by the wind. The panoramic windshield and extremely rounded front gave the Colani truck an almost unbelievable presence on the road. What makes it even more interesting is that behind a design many people considered ridiculous, there was a serious idea: reducing the energy wasted by boxy, poorly aerodynamic truck fronts. It never became the standard on American highways, but it became a symbol of bold truck design. And if this one looks strange because it tried to redesign the future, the next truck took that same search for efficiency into a real-world rolling laboratory. Shell Rotella StarShip. When a company turns a truck into a rolling laboratory, the result can look pretty unusual. The Shell Rotella StarShip was introduced in the United States as a project focused on efficiency, fuel economy, and extreme aerodynamics. It was not just built to pull freight. It was built to prove that a heavy-duty truck could use less energy if every detail was carefully engineered. The StarShip was based on a modern highway tractor, equipped with a Cummins X15 inline six-cylinder diesel engine, producing around 400 to 500 horsepower depending on calibration. In some configurations, torque climbed past 1,800 pound-feet, giving it enough pulling power to move heavy loads while keeping engine speed low. The transmission was automated, with electronically controlled shifts designed to improve fuel economy. It used rear-wheel drive, air suspension, and a setup built for long-haul highway travel. The body featured side fairings, a rounded front end, aerodynamic deflectors, low rolling resistance tires, and a trailer designed to cut down turbulence. The look was so unusual that many people noticed the shape first and only understood the purpose later. The Shell Rotella StarShip showed that weird design can also come from the search for efficiency. It never became a common sight on highways, but it helped reinforce an important idea. In heavy trucking, saving fuel is not just about the engine. It is about the entire shape of the machine. And if this truck looked strange because it was trying to beat the wind, the next one is strange because it represents brute force from another era. ZIL 130. There is a kind of truck that does not try to be pretty, modern, or elegant. It simply shows up with the face of a heavy tool, built to handle bad roads, mud, cold weather, construction sites, farms, and just about any job thrown at it. The ZIL 130 was born in the former Soviet Union, produced by ZIL starting in the 1960s. and became one of the best-known trucks in Eastern Europe. Its design was simple but hard to forget. The tall front end, rounded fenders, square cab, and large hood gave the ZIL 130 a rough and awkward appearance, as if it had been designed for durability first and style much later. Under the hood, it used a gasoline V8 engine of about 6 liters, with 8 cylinders and around 150 horsepower. Torque was around 300 pound-feet, enough to work under load at low speeds. The transmission was a 5-speed manual with gearing focused on heavy-duty work, and top speed was close to 55 miles per hour, depending on the version and the load. It used rear-wheel drive, a solid axle, and leaf spring suspension, a simple, tough, and easy-to-maintain setup. The ZIL 130 was used as a cargo truck, dump truck, fire truck, military vehicle, rural transport, and platform for several special-purpose bodies. One interesting detail is that because it used a gasoline V8, it had a very different sound from the diesel rumble many people expect from an old truck. That made its presence even more unusual on streets and roads. Today, the ZIL 130 is remembered as one of those machines that looked almost too simple, yet helped move a huge part of Soviet history. It is not the most absurd truck on this list, but it shows perfectly how a truck can be strange, iconic, and extremely useful, all at the same time. And the next one proves that shortening a truck can create one of the most charming and unusual designs in automotive history. Chevrolet Coe. Sometimes a truck becomes strange, not because it is too big, but because everything that could be shortened was shortened. The Chevrolet Coe, short for cab over engine, was born in the United States at a time when reducing overall vehicle length was a real practical need. Instead of placing the engine out in front of the cab, Chevrolet placed the cab above the mechanical components. The result was a truck with a flat face, upright windshield, separated headlights, and a front end so short, it almost looked like the cab had swallowed it. Classic versions from the 1940s and 1950s commonly used inline 6-cylinder engines, such as Chevrolet's 216 or 235 cubic inch units, depending on the year. Power was usually in the range of 90 to just over 100 horsepower in the most common versions. The transmission was manual, usually with 4 gears, and the truck used rear-wheel drive. Suspension came from solid axles and leaf springs, a simple and reliable combination for carrying weight. A 0 to 60 miles per hour time was not a priority, because this truck was built to maneuver through tight streets, loading docks, warehouses, commercial districts, and urban areas where a conventional truck would struggle more. Visually, the Chevrolet Coe is almost impossible not to like. The rounded cab, high driving position, and short front end give it a curious expression, almost like it is always surprised. Today, many of them are restored, lowered, or turned into hot rods, show tow trucks, and collector builds, precisely because the design aged with so much charm. If you are enjoying this ride through trucks as strange as they are fascinating, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. That helps the channel keep bringing these rare machines on wheels to people who love vehicles with history, personality, and real presence. And if this Chevrolet looked compact and friendly, the next truck shows how a forward control cab could also make a working machine look squeezed into its own body. Dodge L1000. Some trucks look like they were designed to take up as little space as possible without losing the stance of a serious workhorse. The Dodge L1000 fits exactly into that category. It became known for its forward control cab, placing the driver far toward the front and creating a short, flat nose with proportions that looked unusual, but were very useful for deliveries and tight urban work. That layout made sense on narrow streets, small yards, and operations where every foot of overall length mattered. Depending on the market and version, the Dodge L1000 could use 6-cylinder diesel engines, often associated with Perkins or similar power plants, producing roughly between 100 and 140 horsepower, with an emphasis on low-end pulling power and fuel economy. The transmission was manual, with gearing suited for loaded starts and constant work. It used rear-wheel drive, a ladder frame, solid axles, and leaf spring suspension. A simple and durable setup. A 0 to 60 miles per hour time was not the point. because this truck was designed for cargo, deliveries, regional work, and daily service rather than open road performance. Visually, the L1000 looked like a bigger truck compressed into a smaller body. The short cab, wide windshield, and almost hoodless front gave it a curious appearance, especially next to conventional trucks from the same era. In many places, models like this became familiar sights in local businesses, small fleets, material transport, and urban services. The Dodge L1000 may not be the most famous truck on this list, but it represents a time when practicality controlled the design. It looked strange because it needed to be useful, and that may be exactly what makes it so interesting. If this Dodge already looks different sitting on the street, the next truck was built to take on rough terrain with an even more unusual mechanical solution. Caterpillar M520 Goer. There are trucks that look like they were built for the road, and there are trucks that look like they were built to ignore the road completely. The Caterpillar M520 Goer belongs to the second group. Developed in the United States for military use and produced by Caterpillar starting in the 1970s, it had a low, wide, articulated, heavy-duty appearance, almost like a mix between a truck, construction equipment, and an extreme off-road vehicle. The M520 used a Caterpillar 6-cylinder diesel engine of about 14 liters, producing roughly 213 horsepower. Its torque came in strong at low engine speeds, ideal for carrying supplies, ammunition, fuel, and equipment through areas where ordinary trucks would struggle. The transmission was automatic, an important choice for making it easier to drive in difficult terrain and reducing operator fatigue. It used four-wheel drive, but the real difference was the articulated layout and huge wheels. It did not rely on a conventional suspension like most trucks. The articulation of the chassis, combined with the large tires, helped the vehicle follow uneven ground and maintain traction. Top speed was around 30 miles per hour on the road, but its true talent showed up in mud, shallow water, and unpaved terrain. The Goer looked intimidating and strange at the same time. Its simple cab, exposed structure, and purely functional body made it clear that comfort was not the priority. It was used by the United States Army in logistics operations, carrying loads into places where more conventional vehicles could get stuck or break down. The Caterpillar M520 Goer looks absurd until you understand the problem it was built to solve. It was not made to be beautiful. It was made to arrive where it needed to arrive. And when a military truck already looks this far outside the normal pattern, the next one shows that Eastern Europe also knew how to create square, serious machines with plenty of personality. Liaz MTS. Some trucks are remembered not because they are flashy, but because they have that square, rigid, functional look that feels like it was drawn with a ruler and a deadline. The Liaz MTS came from the former Czechoslovakia, connected to the Liaz tradition of heavy trucks, a brand that was very present in Eastern European transport. It had a simple cab, straight lines, and an appearance that suggested strength, but also a certain oddness. The mechanical setup varied depending on the version and application, but many Liaz trucks from this family use 6-cylinder diesel engines, producing roughly between 200 and 300 horsepower in more robust versions. These engines were built to pull loads, work for long periods, and handle difficult roads, with strong torque at low and mid-range engine speeds, usually with multiple gears to make better use of the engine's pulling power. The drivetrain could appear in layouts designed for highway transport or heavy-duty service, including 4x2 and 6x4 versions, depending on the model. Suspension used leaf springs, and the chassis was prepared for cargo bodies, equipment, and intense commercial use. It was not a truck built to accelerate quickly, but to keep working steadily even under load and in less than friendly conditions. The Liaz MTS had that rugged charm of socialist-era trucks, a tall cab, flat front, little concern for elegance, and a strong focus on function. It was used in cargo transport, construction, industrial work, and regional operations, becoming a common sight in several Eastern European countries for many years. For people who grew up seeing these trucks on the road, it carries a strong memory of hard work. Today, the Liaz MTS stands out because it looks so serious and at the same time, so different from the rounded, aerodynamic trucks many people are used to now. It is a piece of a time when a truck had to be tough before anything else. But the next one goes even further back in time and shows how Tatra was already thinking differently when many companies were still building trucks in the most basic way possible. Tatra 27B. When a manufacturer has a tradition of thinking differently, even an old work truck can look unusual. The Tatra 27B came from the former Czechoslovakia, produced by Tatra at a time when trucks needed to be simple, tough, and capable of handling roads that were often more mud and rock than pavement. Its appearance had that rugged old machine character, with a narrow cab, long front end, and proportions that look strange today. Depending on the version and period, the Tatra 27 family could use 4-cylinder engines, gasoline or diesel, with power usually in the range of 50 to 70 horsepower. That may sound low today, but it was appropriate for the weight, speed, and type of transport expected at the time. The transmission was manual, with simple operation and a focus on control at low speeds. The drive layout and configuration could vary by version, but Tatra became famous for robust engineering solutions, including central backbone frames and swinging axles in many of its trucks. The suspension was built to handle irregular surfaces, which helped a lot in rural, military, industrial, and rough road use. The Tatra 27B was not fast. Its top speed was modest, often somewhere around 30 to 45 miles per hour, depending on configuration. But speed was not the mission. The mission was to keep moving, where more delicate vehicles would struggle. It carried loads, handled tough terrain, and did the kind of work that demanded strength more than style. And if this Tatra already looks different because of its old European engineering school, the next one brings British charm that mixes elegance and weirdness in equal measure. Fodin S20. Some trucks stand out because of their power, others because of their size. The Fodin S20 stands out because it almost looks like it has a face of its own. Produced in the United Kingdom by the traditional manufacturer Foden from the late 1950s into the 1960s, it came from a time when British trucks still mixed rounded cabs, heavy construction, and a lot of personality. Curved cab gave the S20 a look that is hard to define. From one angle, it seemed elegant and well-built. From another, it looked like a metal toy enlarged several times. Depending on the version, it could use 6-cylinder diesel engines, including Gardner units or Foden's own engines, with power generally between 100 and 150 horsepower, always prioritizing torque and durability. The transmission was manual, often with several ratios, requiring an experienced driver to keep the engine in the right power band. Rear-wheel drive appeared in 4x2, 6x2, or 6x4 configurations, with leaf spring suspension and a strong chassis for road haulage, industrial loads, and heavy-duty service. Top speed varied by configuration, but it was built much more for steady work than for hurry. Inside, the driver sat high, surrounded by metal, glass, engine noise, and simple controls. It was a physical driving experience, the kind where you felt the vibration of the road and the weight of the load. This type of truck required a good ear, strong hands, and patience, especially on long routes with heavy cargo and roads that were not as forgiving as today's. The Fodin S20 became a strong memory of the classic British truck era. Today it appears at shows, restorations, and collections precisely because its design does not blend in with almost anything else. It is strange, charming, and respectable all at once. But if you thought this cab was curious, the next truck closes the list with a machine that carries the weight of an entire era on the road. Atkinson Borderer. There's a rough kind of beauty in trucks that do not try to win people over with looks, but with presence. The Atkinson Borderer, produced in the United Kingdom mainly during the 1960s and 1970s, was exactly that kind of machine. It had a straight cab, simple lines, a serious front end, and the stance of a truck built to cross long distances under load, without needing luxury or decoration. Atkinson was known for building tough trucks, highly valued by operators who wanted durability and easy maintenance. The Borderer often used Gardner inline 6-cylinder diesel engines, such as the famous 6LX, of about 10.45 liters, producing around 150 horsepower. In later versions, some setups could approach 180 horsepower, always with a focus on torque and fuel economy, often with multiple gears and long highway ratios, requiring skill from the driver during shifts. The drive layout could be 4x2 or 6x4, depending on the application, with leaf spring suspension and a strong chassis for heavy loads. Top speed varied depending on gearing, load, and configuration, but its greatest talent was maintaining a steady rhythm over many miles. The Borderer's cab had that classic British work truck character. The environment was simple, direct, and noisy, with a large steering wheel, basic controls, and little concern for modern comfort. It was a machine for experienced drivers, the kind who understood the truck by the sound of the engine and the feel of the transmission. Over time, the Atkinson Borderer became a symbol of an era when reliability mattered more than appearance. It is respected by collectors and remembered by those who saw these trucks working for real on the roads. It may look square and plain to some people, but it has more than enough presence. And maybe that is exactly what makes this truck so memorable. It did not need to look modern to become unforgettable. These trucks show that heavy transportation was never made only of beautiful, well-behaved machines. Some were built to save fuel, others to conquer rough terrain, carry weight, or simply test ideas that seemed almost too strange for their own time. In the end, each one has its place in history. Strange, exaggerated, or completely out of proportion, they all prove that human creativity also lives on highways, in truck yards, inside factories, and in the most unexpected designs. Now, tell me in the comments, which one of these trucks did you find the strangest? Which one would you want to see in person? And which truck do you think should have been on this list? If you enjoy rare trucks and unusual machines, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. It helps the channel grow and shows YouTube that this kind of content deserves to reach more people who love incredible vehicles. I'll see you in the next video.